Hi, good day to all. This is Kelvin here again. Welcome to this week edition of Weekly Technical Outlook on the major stock indices. As we know, last week the major stock indices staged a very remarkable rebound and even surpassed our bounce target and invalidated the drop scenario to retest the September range support. So where do we go from here? Okay, so before we start, let's take a look at the disclaimer slides first. Okay, Okay, before I jump into the individual chart of the S&P, the Nasdaq, the DAX, as well as the Hong Kong 50 indices, let's take a look at the market breadth of the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq Composite. Okay, as we know that last week, as the U.S. presidential elections results are actually hitting the media headlines, the market actually staged a very strong recovery from the September low. So what we are going to investigate is the number of participants of the S&P 500 that is taking part in this rally, whether it's more or less. So the bottom of this chart over here, it shows the percentage of members hitting new 4 weeks low, which is the bottom, versus hitting new 4 weeks highs. So as we could see in the last 4 days, which is last week, the number of participants or the number of constituent stocks inside the S&P 500 has been slowly ticking up. So we have close to about 17% that is hitting new 4 weeks high versus only around a very minor 1% plus that's hitting 4 weeks low. So all in all, what we could see is that we could see a pretty much healthy market breadth participant on the S&P 500 constitutes, which is actually positive on the overall market itself. Now, let's take a look at the Nasdaq Composite. So pretty much similar observation on the Nasdaq Composite market breadth as well, on the number of stocks or the number of constitutions inside the composite hitting new 4 weeks high, which is slowly ticking up higher, and the number of members or constitution hitting new 4 week lows are actually pretty much shallow or pretty much minute. So overall, we could actually say that it's a pretty much positive market breadth scenario, as there are more stocks that are actually hitting new 4 weeks highs versus 4 week lows in the Nasdaq Composite. So which is a pretty much healthy sign on the Nasdaq index itself. Now let's jump into the individual technical configuration of the major stock indices. So let me start off with the longer term chart on the S&P 500. So longer term configuration, no change. We are still eyeing this long term resistance or a circular resistance at 3650/770, which is the upper boundary of this expanding wedge that's in place since October 2018. Now, jumping on to the daily chart itself, as you could see that in today's Asia session, we see a continuation of this push up from last week. Right now it's actually breaking above this range, top of the range resistance that is in place since September. And all in all, the momentum indicator is pretty positive as well, inching higher, breaking above. Now it's about, yeah, it's actually slightly breaking above the previous high, which is in October, and it has yet to hit the overbought region. So what it means that momentum over here is pretty much healthy, and the medium term upside momentum remains intact for the S&P 500. So now going on to the strategy chart, which is the 4 hour chart. So from the short 4 hour chart, what we could see over here is that since the low of 31st of October, right now it has been evolving in a kind of a ascending channel configuration. And prior to that, we have a bullish divergence on the 4 hour RSI, where we actually expect a bounce, but the bounce actually surpassed our expectation. So right now, I would say that based on the current price action, the probability of it shipping now back to retest this September range support is pretty low right now. So what we could see right now is, as long as this 3460 key medium term pivotal support holds, we could see a retest to 3588. Thereafter, a minor pullback towards this 3515, which is the pullback support of that former range resistance, before heading up higher to actually target this next resistance at 3645/50, which is actually confluence with a Fibo extension at 0.618 and the upper boundary of this ascending channel. Alright, so however, if a daily close below 3460 would invalidate this bullish scenario, where we could see a flip back to the bearish camp, where you should start to see a further slide down back to retest the range support at 3230. Now, going to the Nasdaq 100. overall here. So Nasdaq 100 continue to see this bullish, I would say exponential push up. Next key long-term resistance will be at 13,000 slash 13,020, which is confluenced by a Fibo extension cluster. Now going to the daily chart from here. On the daily chart, very similar on the S&P, the daily RSI is pretty positive, hasn't reached the overbought region yet, which explains to us that the medium-term upside momentum remains intact. And today's Asia session also showing a very strong price action, a follow through from last week, stellar rebound of close to 9%. Then all in all now it's actually breaking above this range resistance that is in place since 2nd of September. So what we could see over here is a kind of a bullish breakout from a symmetrical triangle formation, which is positive. Now going to the 4-hour chart or the strategy chart. So what we could see over here is that the previous scenario where we actually expecting a bounce first before a drop down to retest this range support has been invalidated. So right now is actually shaping a kind of a bullish impulsive uplift to actually retest this all-time high at 12,466, pulling back towards this 1280, which is the pullback of this former symmetrical triangle range resistance before targeting the next resistance at 12,770. So what is 12,770 is actually the upper boundary of this ascending channel, as well as the 0.764 Fibo extension of this ongoing current impulsive up move. So nevertheless, if it didn't manage to hold above this 11,790 and it start to shape a daily close below we will say that it's game over for the bulls, and where we start to see another setback to actually retest this symmetrical, I would say that this range support at this 11,100 level. Okay, now moving on to the Hang Seng Index. So or the Hong Kong 50 we call it over in our platform. So going for the Hong Kong 50 over here is that two things I want to highlight over here is number one, it's been trading in a kind of a pretty much sideways formation, or I would say that it's a kind of a very long term bullish ascending triangle since its high of 2007, which is the prior to the great financial crisis. Then thereafter it tried to did a bullish breakout but failed, and subsequently it did this 20 to 30% setback, but this setback managed to help above this key major support, ascending support in place since the great financial crisis low, which is 18,000, sorry pardon me, which is in October 2008. Longer term, the monthly RSI is pretty bullish now, trying to actually surpass the 50 level mark, which is positive in terms of momentum. So the level to watch will be at this 26,740, which is actually a major resistance that is in place since its all-time high of Jan 2018 that has kept previous rally since one time, two time, okay, twice in a row as well. So now it's actually trying to hit this 26,740. So what do we have for our daily our strategy for this week? So the RSI is still daily RSI is kind of positive, hasn't really hit the extreme overbought level yet. So what we have this week is that the key support level to watch will be at this 24,950. Okay, what's 24,950? So 24,950 is actually the pullback support of the former descending resistance from 6th of July 2020, and price action has really broken above it since last Friday. So right now any pullback below this 24,950, any pullback towards this 24,950 is pretty positive. So eyeing another leg up to actually test that long-term major resistance at 26,740. So nevertheless, if we see a daily close below 24,950, it will actually invalidate this week bullish scenario to see a setback inside this pretty much complex range configuration to retest 23,970 and even 23,000 level. Okay, now moving on to the German 30 index over here. Okay, give a minute to run. All right. So, no change on the long-term configuration. This is the monthly chart of the German 30 index, still trading within this major or long-term circular ascending channel in place since the great financial crisis low, which is March 2009. Okay, right now the resistance to actually break will be at this 13,600, which is its current all-time high that is in place since close to 2 years ago, 2 years plus at Jan 2018. A break above this level should take us up to the next higher level at 15,020, which is defined by the 61.618 Fibo extension as well as the upper boundary of this long-term ascending channel. Now moving to the daily chart over here. Okay, daily chart is pretty positive as well. What's so two interesting two interesting elements that I want to highlight is the reason push down from here, close to about this reason push down from 13,320, where it actually stopped. Actually managed to stop at the 38.2% retracement from March low all the way up to 3rd September, and right now it managed to actually surpass or trade above the 200-day moving average. So all in all, we start to see a very positive development, at least in the multi-week from a multi-week perspective for the German 30 index. So right now the daily RSI is pretty positive as well, hitting above the 50 level and now trying to actually break above this corresponding descending resistance that is in place since 5th of June. Right, now moving on to the strategy chart, which want to highlight the key support to watch for this week to actually kind of maintain this bullish momentum for the German 30 index will be at this 12,215. So what is 12,215? So 12,215 is actually the ascending trend line support, which is in shape since 30 in place since 30th of October 2020, and as well as the former swing high of 4th of November and as well as 27th of October. So as long as any pullback that managed to hold above 12,215, we may see a further push up to actually test that range top at this 13,320 in the first step. However, a daily close below 12,215 will invalidate this bullish scenario to see another push down to retest that range support level at 11,330 slash 250, which is the medium term range support on the German 30 index. So that's all I have for today. So have a great trading week ahead, and I shall speak to you all again soon.